In the last season of Cartridges and Consoles, I talked about Mario Party 10, what many people consider the worst game in the entire Mario Party franchise. Well, after the negative reception to that game, new console Mario Party games went on hiatus for what was an unspecified time. Nintendo and ND did release some entries on the 3DS, which were either seen as an attempt at new Mario Party modes or a compilation of minigames from the series. But it seemed that a true return to the glory days of the Hudson Soft entries might have been out of reach. But then in 2018, ND released Super Mario Party on the Nintendo Switch, which actually included a rendition of the classic Mario Party rules we all knew and loved. It wasn't perfect, but it still was a step in the right direction for the series. However, everything would then change when in the midst of a pandemic, ND surprised everyone by announcing a second Mario Party for the Switch that quite literally brought the series back to its roots: Mario Party Superstars. In this episode of Cartridges and Consoles, we'll look at this supposed resurrection of the classic Mario Party series, and show how it did a great job at bringing back the nostalgia of the original Mario Party feel we loved, but also how it didn't fully succeed in living up to the legacy of the franchise. Mario Party Superstars was the 17th entry in the Mario Party series, and the second one released for the Nintendo Switch, launching on October 29, 2021. The game mostly revolves around its central mode, Mario Party, which has gameplay reminiscent from the first 8 Mario Party titles, as well as this game's predecessor, Super Mario Party. Your goal in this mode is to individually traverse your way around a game board, collecting coins along your way and exchanging 20 of those coins for stars you come across around the board. As for these game boards, Mario Party Superstars is the first game in the franchise to reintroduce boards from previous Mario Party games. 2 of these boards come from the first Mario Party, while 2 of them come from Mario Party 2, and finally, 1 of them comes from Mario Party 3. In addition, after everyone gets one turn around the board, a minigame ensues where you can compete for more coins to use on your adventure. What's more, all the minigames are also ported over from all previous main Mario Party entries. There's also a lot of different elements to help spice up a game, including items you can obtain, events that are different with every board, and even Bowser spaces and Chance Time spaces which can flip the entire game on its head at a moment's notice. Alongside the main Mario Party mode, you have a new location known as Mount Minigames, where you can play minigame gauntlet modes or free play any of the game's 100 minigames. Plus, all of these modes can be played with up to 4 players, either locally on the same system, via local wireless with multiple systems, or even through online play. Now easily one of the biggest positives of Mario Party Superstars is the long-awaited return of the true, no-strings-attached, completely unchanged, classic Mario Party rules. While yes, Mario Party 10 had Amiibo Party, and Super Mario Party did have a mode resembling the classic rules, they did have some subtle differences between what many people considered a classic Mario Party. So, for Mario Party Superstars to bring this format back, it was more than a welcome sight for longtime fans, considering it had almost been 15 years since the last time we saw this exact rule set in place. They even went the extra mile with this classic rules feeling by adding back iconic events like Chance Time, where you could trade coins and stars with another player, and a bonus star option which brought back the classic 3 bonus stars that were standard for every Mario Party game up until Mario Party 6. In addition to these classic rules, the 5 boards in the game can provide some very enjoyable experiences. While all 5 are ported over from the first 3 Mario Party games, and some of them were infamous for their original design flaws, the developers still went through all of the boards and touched them up to improve their flow and enjoyment. Take, for example, Peach's Birthday Cake, a board that's despised in Mario Party 1, mostly because of the Flower Lottery. In the original version, you'd have at least a 1 in 4 chance of winning the Flower Lottery and going to visit Bowser, while simultaneously missing out on a chance to go to the star. But in Mario Party Superstars, the lottery location was moved to after the star space, meaning winning the lottery has you going the short way to the star. What's more, they even added a new happening space before the lottery that has you skip it altogether. These subtle changes not only give this board a fresh look, but they completely mix up the strategy of the board and make it more enjoyable as a result. And almost every board has at least one subtle change from its N64 version. Woody Woods has all the Monty Mole junction signs independent from each other instead of all facing the same direction. Horrorland moved the locations of the Koopa banks where you're required to deposit coins to encourage building up more money. And then there's smaller cases across Yoshi's Tropical Island and Spaceland that helped improve their flow considerably. Plus, I know this will be a hot take, but I prefer all the boards only being from the N64 games. Now hear me out. While I can understand people having gripes with the game only having boards from the N64 games, I think it can be because they liked the GameCube or Wii boards more. And while I understand where they come from, I'd much rather have a remake of a Mario Party 1 board to fix it up and make it more memorable than have a remake of a fan-favorite board from a GameCube entry, if you get what I mean. So while I understand not liking the odd choice of only having the boards from the N64 entries of Mario Party, I think there's a more acceptable reason to be critical of this decision that I'll get into later. On top of this, the game's extended collection of 100 minigames from previous entries in the series is also a standout. There's both a combination of classic games long-timers remember, and more modern games that also have their level of charm to them. And with so many minigames in play, there's little chance for repeat games to come up in a single board. Some of the minigames have even been modified for this release to make them more enjoyable. For example, Slot Car Derby has a proper countdown, Dizzy Dancing has you collecting multiple clef notes instead of gunning for one, several games such as Tick-Tock Hop and Hot Rope Jump have new endless modes, Bowser's Big Blast has new delays to add on to the pressure, etc. Another big selling point about this game is that it was the first Mario Party game in the franchise to launch with a true online multiplayer mode, allowing you to play Mario Party boards with random players or with friends without being in the same room together. While yes, before this game, select Mario Party games launched with a separate online multiplayer mode, it was mostly focused on rankings in minigames rather than normal boards. But 1 year before this game's release, Super Mario Party was updated to include online play, leading to this game being the first to launch with the ability to play Mario Party boards with people through Nintendo's online servers. And the internet connection is pretty solid. There can be some disconnection or lag issues you can run into, but other than that, it feels no different than playing the game locally with friends. Also, let it be remembered that Mario Party Superstars came out in a time where local play was more difficult because, literally. So it was a pretty big deal at the time that the game launched with online multiplayer you could access straight from booting up the game for the first time. In addition to this, the game's music soundtrack also is very well done, even with the fact almost every theme is a remake from a song in a previous game in the series, be it the minigame themes or the board themes. Plus, with said board themes, there's a new type of music track in the form of the Homestretch theme, which only plays on the final 5 turns of the board and is a much more intense and amped up version of the original theme. It's very similar to the final lap music variations in the Mario Kart series, except instead of just being a sped up version of the original, it instead is an entirely different composition that adds a new level of flair. That being said, if these new board themes aren't to your liking, you also have the option to listen to the classic themes of the boards from the N64 versions. However, even with all of these positive points, there are still some underlying problems that need to be addressed. The first of these problems relates to the board count. With Mario Party Superstars' grand total of 5 boards, it puts this game in a now 3-way tie for 12 of all 17 Mario Party games in terms of board count at the time of release. While it does have more boards than its predecessor on the Nintendo Switch, that's not a huge compliment. And part of me wishes in the age of DLC and digital updates that some love was given to this game to add more boards over the course of time. I'll also admit that while it's impressive that there's 100 minigames from the series jam-packed into here, I can't gloss over the odd selection of games they decided to include. This is exacerbated by the fact that over 50% of all the minigames are derived from the 3 N64 games alone, while 7 other games in the series have to share the other 50%. Plus, some of these minigames were not as optimized as others. Flash Forward is still a one-and-done game instead of being multiple rounds. Some 1v3 games like Piranha's Pursuit and Tackle Takedown are still extremely lopsided, and then there's weird inclusions nobody asked for like Sneak and Snore and Honeycomb Havoc. But all of these problems are minuscule in comparison to the inclusion of legacy controls for 2 games from Mario Party 1. Those being Tug of War and Castaways, which require you to rotate the control stick as fast as possible. If you don't know why this is a major problem, there's a reason why Mario Party's Wikipedia page has a section dedicated to hand injury complaints. And spoiler alert, these 2 minigames were part of that problem, as the most optimal strategy for these games is to rotate the control stick with your palm. While yes, the Switch control sticks are not as rigid as the N64's, and the game discourages you from doing this in the menus, A, Nintendo should know that nobody ever obeys these warning messages, and B, this issue could have been avoided altogether by adjusting the controls or even just giving an option to mash a button instead of spin the stick. I mean, seriously, if we could change the controls of Shy Guy Says to be the bumpers instead of A and B, we could have changed the controls for these 2 minigames. Another small issue with the game is, once again, the lack of a dedicated story mode or single-player campaign, something I've already complained about with Mario Party 10. Sure, there's less incentive to play single-player since there's online multiplayer now, but it still would have been nice to have a single-player campaign outside of a minigame challenge at Mount Minigames. However, probably the most prevalent issue I need to bring up is the fact the game feels like it's in its own identity crisis, and doesn't know if it wants to be a true celebration or a nostalgia throwback. There are elements here and there that suggest it's a franchise celebration, such as the music remakes, the board, and the minigames. But then the main menu and the Mario Party setup screen screens nostalgia throwback by being full recreations of the Mario Party 1's main menu and party setup menus respectively. This issue ties back into what I was saying earlier about the boards. While I think it's fine that the boards are only from the N64 games, it still feels kinda odd how no other Mario Party game has a board featured here, and only has representation through the minigames, which kinda makes the game feel like it's more focused on the first 3 Mario Party games than the entire series. This is more evident by the fact that the game doesn't even acknowledge all 16 prior Mario Party entries, and instead only recognizes the main numbered 10, which leaves out every portable entry in the series, and even the game's Switch predecessor from the celebration. Honestly, when it boils down to it, the best way I can describe this feeling of Mario Party Superstars having an identity crisis is through the credits for the game. The credits are headlined with this picture book of the Mario Party series, and it's very clear there's more pages for the N64 games than any other games in the series. Mario Parties 3 and 2 have the most and second most pages respectively, while Mario Parties 8, 9, and 10 have as many pages as Mario Party 1 combined. On top of this, you have the credits theme. It starts as a remake of the original credits theme from the first Mario Party, but instead of being a full rendition of said theme, it turns into a medley of themes from across the series, excluding Mario Party 10, which has no representation here. So while the credits theme starts by feeling like a nostalgia throwback, it then quickly transitions into a celebration of the franchise, albeit in the least impactful way possible. And that kinda summarizes this identity crisis Mario Party Superstars has. While it doesn't distract from the gameplay, you can't help but feel they could have done better to make this feel like either a true celebration to show how far Mario Party's come, or a nostalgia throwback to pay homage to the N64 entries, and not this weird middle ground the game feels like it's in. In summary, Mario Party Superstars was a much-needed return to form for the Mario Party series, but at the same time seemed to not be clear on whether it wanted to be a celebration or a classic resurrection. Bringing back the original Mario Party rules, while also refreshing game boards from the first 3 entries, as well as adding minigames from all across the series, truly helped set this title apart from prior Mario Party games, and made it come off as more than just the next new Mario Party. However, there are some noticeable problems with how they handled these aspects, from a lack of boards, to not all the minigames being as polished, to a weird identity crisis the game has. It feels like more things are amiss than there should be. While these aspects don't completely ruin the entire experience of the game, they do put a bit of a damper on things, and turn what could have been an excellent celebration of the Mario Party's legacy into something that has us wondering what could have been. Mario Party Superstars on the Nintendo Switch gets my personal, and honestly quite painful rating of 6 cartridges out of 10.